A very good day to you. This is, of course, Relax Radio with me, Jamie, right here. And listen, we've been talking about some very interesting things. We've been talking about some very interesting topics. And I want you to know that you can connect with me absolutely anytime you want. It's super simple. All you got to do is make sure that you hit me up on our social media that is Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. We go as Relax Radio. And if you want to say hi to me or if you want to have a conversation about something, all you got to do is connect with me on our social media. Or what you can do is always give me a call on WhatsApp or normal on 7852 473 I would love to have a conversation with you. And first of all, I want to say thank you so much for being a part of the show. It truly, truly means so much to us that you're here with us and that you're a part of all the conversation that we're having. So thank you for tuning in and make sure that you keep it tuned right here on Relax Radio. I am Jamie, and this is, of course, the Chat Trap where we trap you with the best of conversation. So, listen, we've been talking about a cultural identity so far, but I wanted to digress a little bit and talk about something that is equally important, and that is the job that you do and how you identify yourself. But before we get into this conversation, I want you to watch a very interesting video so that you have a little bit of an idea of what we do here at Relax Radio. So go ahead and take a look. That's right. We are Relax Radio. We're a fun bunch. And like I said, if you want to have a conversation with us, I would love to hear from you. So go ahead, connect with me. Let me know what's going on. And you could just call me or you could connect with me on social media or just drop a comment down below if you're on Facebook or YouTube. And we will definitely get back to you. Now, with that being said, let's get back into the topic of discussion, rather, which is why we define ourselves by our jobs. Now, a lot of us, we see our job or the career that we do as a defining detail of who we are. Right? We kind of form our self identity or we create a perception of ourselves based on the career or based on the job that we do. Now, trying so hard or closely tying your identity to work can be potentially very dangerous. Now, that's what I want to talk to you about. I want to talk to you about the dangers of tying yourself and your identity and your self worth so closely with your job or with your career. And I want to speak about what we can do to get rid of all of these harmful impacts. Now, first of all, let's take a general consensus for a second. Okay, we feel like if you look at surnames in most of the countries, all right, the most popular surname, for example, in Germany and in Switzerland, if I'm not mistaken, is Muller, while in Ukraine it's Melnik. Now both of these actually mean, or rather these words mean Miller. Okay. Now, in Slovakia, the most common last name is Varga. Now, that name means cobbler. Whereas, say, in the UK, in our country, in Australia, in New Zealand, in Canada, and even in the US, one of the most common surnames is Smith. And how it originated is as in blacksmith, silversmith, locksmith, gunsmith, whatever it is, this is how surnames originated. In the past, your surname was basically based on the type of career or the type of job that you did, right? Now, these names date as far back as the Middle Ages when a person's job was the defining characteristic of themselves and it became their literal identity. Now, today, times are very different, right? Today, it's different because our jobs don't essentially dictate our names. But I feel like what's scary is even though we've gone past this tradition, most of us are still use our job as a major part of our identity. After all, one of the first questions we tend to engage with somebody that you just met, a new acquaintance, is, what do you do for a living? Now, in many ways, it feels supernatural, right? It's a normal question that we ask each other when we meet each other. What do you do? What is your profession? And it's natural to see a person's profession as a defining detail of who they are. Because I know, I feel like according to society, at least, this is not my opinion, but the general consensus in society is that you can basically know a person's values, know a person's characteristics, and know their interests or backgrounds based on their job. But many of us have come to actually almost define ourselves by our occupations, which often comes at its own expense, which is why I wanted to talk to you about this. Now, I know this is not the first topic of discussion that you think of when it comes to a talk show, but I did want to talk about this because it has got quite problematic, especially in the day and age that we're living in. So, how did our career or our jobs become so entwined with our identity? And is it too late to separate our perceptions of self from professional lives? Now, these are a few questions that I'm trying to answer, and these are a few questions that I want to find the answers to along with you. Now, again, before we get into the real talk, I want to make sure that you remember that you can call us absolutely anytime if you have your own perception. I would absolutely love to hear from you. If you have a different opinion, well, your opinion is absolutely welcome. So go ahead, talk to us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, or you could simply call me on a 7852 473 473. Now, moving on to what we were talking about, which is why we define ourselves by our job. Now, historically, most people didn't get to choose their jobs. Now, earlier on, I told you that most surnames like Smith, like Muller, comes from the type of job that that person was doing. Now, see, according to a lot of experts out there, but in the past, according to history, a lot of people had to choose their jobs based on their context because there wasn't many opportunities, and you just take a job on the opportunity that was available, which is why a sector of society, say from a certain area, we're all farmers, we're all blacksmiths, or so on and so forth. But I feel like with increased access to education over the past few years, over the past century to say the least, it has led to almost this emergence of more varied jobs where we choose our career or we choose our job based on our a set of skills or based on our set of knowledge and our preference when it comes to the field of the job that we're choosing. So, jobs have become a significant marker of identity in a more nuanced way. And it's also more harmful as of present because we as individuals, we tend to place our judgments of other individuals based on the job that we do. And what's more scary is that we base our self worth, our self perception, or our identity solely based on this job or career that we do. And that essentially is harmful. So, to figure out if you have used your job as an identity marker and you've limited yourself to identifying yourself with your job, to figure this out, I have a few questions for you. Okay. I want you to ask yourself these questions and see if, in fact, you have become so meshed with your career. First question: how much do you think about your job outside of the office? Is your mind very frequently consumed with work related thoughts? And is it difficult for you to participate in conversations with others that are not about your work? That was the first question. Second question I want to ask yourself to see if you are too, if you define yourself solely based on your job is, I want to ask yourself, how do you as an individual describe yourself? How much of this description is tied to your job, to your title, to your company? Are there any other ways you would describe yourself? And how quickly do you tell people you've just met about your job? Which means, is the only thing you can talk about your career or your job? Next question. Where do you spend most of your time? Has anyone in your life, especially your significant other or your loved ones, ever complained to you that you are in office or you are engaging in work too often? And finally, I want you to ask yourself, do you have any hobbies outside of work that don't directly involve your work related skills and abilities? Okay. Now, if these questions cause you to worry about the degree to which your job has, in fact, influenced your identity, don't worry about it. Let's figure this out together. Let's figure out what we as individuals can do to initiate change, to ensure that we identify ourselves not solely based on our jobs or the career that path that we've chosen. Now, you can accomplish these, of course, you can accomplish these on your own, but you could also do it with the help of a professional, I don't know, a therapist or whatever, who understands the challenges faced by individuals, especially if you are engaged in a high pressure career. Now, the first thing that you need to do to stop defining yourself based on your job is to free up time. A lot of people think that working hard is always the defining feature of a good leader, but in fact, that is not true. Because the defining characteristic of a good leader is, in fact, the ability to free up time and the ability to delegate tasks. So remember that you delegate tasks to free up your own time and crucially fill that time with non work related activities. Secondly, start small. I want you to rather form new activities outside work. Start small and try out some hobbies you've had your eye on. Rebuild your network. Reach out to friends and family. Revitalize your social circles. And I want you to decide on what's important to you. Establish and review your principles and your values. What is most important to you? Ask yourself these questions. Look beyond your job title. And when you do these little things, I promise you that it is going to help you define yourself not solely based on your job. Because when you do that, that can potentially be a very harming. So we've a lot more interesting topics to talk about. We have a lot more interesting discussions to be had. So make sure that you keep it tuned right here on Relax Radio. I am Jamie. I'll be here with you for quite some time. So tune in and go ahead and listen to Relax Radio.